Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose, and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life.
It's very important for each and every one of us to find our inner guidance, to tap into all the information that's available to us, the messages that are coming to us to help us understand why we're here, help us understand the life that we're truly meant to live. There are many different practices out there, but one of the most important ones is being able to silence the mind, quiet your mind for a period of time so you're able to, one, hear the messages, two, put yourself in a space that you're grounded, put yourself in a space that you're centered. So you're able to take the outside distractions, you're able to take the outside information that's presented to you and make it work for you. Put it in alignment with who you are. The practice of silence, be it through meditation, through centering prayer, through just being able to quiet your mind as you meditate or you put yourself in a space where you're just able to listen without all the voices in your head, can open up so many opportunities for you to truly bring your unique purpose to the world. You have to be centered in yourself. You have to be able to get your guidance and tap into the knowingness that's available to you at all times. Silence is one wonderful way to do that. I'm with Rich Lewis today. Rich is an author, speaker, and coach who focuses on centering prayer as a means of inner transformation. He teaches centering prayer in both his local and virtual communities and offers one-on-one coaching. Rich's newest book is titled Sitting with God, A Journey to Your True Self Through Centering Prayer. He publishes a weekly meditation, book reviews, and interviews on his site, Silence Teaches. For Rich, centering prayer has been so life-giving and life-changing that he feels compelled to share his journey with others who wish to learn more. Rich Lewis, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
I am. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you being here. It's so exciting to hear different perspectives and learn how people are truly bringing themselves into living a life that they're meant to live. So I appreciate you being here and sharing with the audience.
Sure. Glad to be here. And hopefully I'll provide something that will be helpful and fruitful for them.
I'm sure you will. The bio or the introductions are all so short. Would you share a little bit more about you and what you're doing in the world, Rich?
Sure. So I guess what I've been doing, I guess we'll focus on centering prayers, is something that's near and dear to my heart since I stumbled across it in 2013. So I guess I'll speak from 2013 and forward, though I've been around a lot longer than that. So I stumbled into centering prayer in 2013. I'd always been attracted to silence, just didn't know what to do in the silence. And I had read books by a gentleman by the name of Carl McCullman, and he talked about how powerful and transforming silence was, but he never talked about a practice. At least I don't remember him talking about practices. I've since learned he actually does also practice centering prayer. So at that time, I would just practice silence, and it was brutal, but I thought I should persist because I thought something probably will happen as a result of it. But then luckily enough, I was perusing Amazon looking for a book to read in late 2013, and I came across Amos Smith's book, Healing the Divide, Recovering Christianity's Mystic Roots. And in his book, he talked about a silent prayer practice called centering prayer that he had been doing for about 15 years up until that point. So that immediately intrigued me. And I began reading more about it, reading other books on it, and I reached out to him on his website and began a back and forth dialogue with him. And we're now friends up until this point. We've actually become friends and talk probably on the phone once a month. He's on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. So I guess I stumbled into centering prayer, or maybe it stumbled into me, and it was meant that was the right time for it to happen. But since then, I guess I've been on a mission of learning more about centering prayer, sharing centering prayer with individuals, with one-on-one coaching, with groups via guest speaking or introduction to centering prayer sessions, and with my book, which is out just a year now, just to share what it is, how you do it, and how it has healed and transformed me. So that's a lot of what I've been up to really since 2013, is sharing centering prayer and continuing to let my inner spirit move me in the direction that I should move into. I'll try and do new things to share it and how to share it.
It sounds like it's become such a huge part of your life, and the desire to share it shows each and every one of us the power that it's had for you. One of the things that you said, Rich, that got my attention was that it was at the right time. Was there something that happened before 2013 that drew you to starting to find that inner peace, that inner guidance, maybe a wake-up call of some sort?
And it's interesting that you say that. So as I kind of reflect upon that now, I think about, I had been working at a financial services firm for 20 years and left it to be a stay-at-home dad in 2009. And then I actually returned to the workforce, to the same company, in 2011, about 2.5 years later. I almost wish I had known this practice during that period. That's when I most needed it, but didn't know it existed. But maybe my mind was just not ready. I probably was just not ready for something like this. I was, even though I needed it, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it and persist with it. So I guess I was a little more calmer, a little bit more stable, back in the workforce, feeling better about the finances for my wife and I and our family. And I was kind of ready to check out what was out there regarding silent practices. So I probably was in a more stable place, not only financially, but mentally and with my mind. And that's probably why I was ready. So I probably would never been able to focus on doing it, even though back 2.5 years before that, that's probably when I most needed it.
Right. Well, yeah, I understand. We get to this place in our lives that we're being called to step into something more, and the question is what. And it's very interesting. Many people go towards meditation. Other people are looking for guidance through religion. Other people look for guidance in science and in spirituality. It's interesting. I haven't talked to anyone yet on the podcast that has been interested in silence. How did that come about for you?
Yeah, I think I was always intrigued by silence. Going back to as a young child, I think I had friends, but I was more of an introvert. So I was better with one-on-ones, one or two friends at a time, not large group settings. But I also didn't mind being, in the woods, being in nature. I didn't mind taking bike rides by myself and running or jogging by myself. So I think even though I had friends and I have cherished the friends I have, I always was attracted to just being by myself or being in nature or looking at the night sky. It just appealed to me. So I guess I always had an attraction to solitude and silence. I just didn't know what to do in it until late 2013, when I stumbled upon a practice in the silence that can help you in the silence.
And probably not stumbled. It was
Right.
there looking for you, ready to grab a hold of you. as soon as you were ready for it. Could you share a little bit of how this has changed your life?
Sure. So if I think of myself pre-centering prayer, and we should probably define centering prayer for your audience as well. But so maybe I'll answer that second. But how it has changed me when I look at myself prior to centering prayer and I look at myself after centering prayer, I'm definitely a much more confident person in myself, or more, and even more willing to get out of my comfort zone and try and do new things than I was before centering prayer. I'm more excited to live life. I mean, I enjoyed life then, but I think I really better enjoy it because I'm more present in the moment, whatever that moment brings. And sometimes the moment's not wonderful. Sometimes it is good, but I'm more present. I'm more calmer. I'm less reactive, or I can stop myself from being reactive and just listen and accept a situation instead of fighting it, or instead of reacting to someone when they say something that I may not disagree with, just listening and hearing their standpoint. So a lot of those types of things I definitely have noticed how I've changed.
Go ahead and share with us what centering prayer is, and maybe some techniques in using centering prayer.
Sure. So centering prayer is about 50 years old. It was created in the early 1970s by three Trappist monks, so three Catholic priests. They saw transcendental meditation happening, and they wanted something for the Christian community. And one of them, Father William Meninger, discovered the method in an old classic book called The Cloud of Unknowing. So they rolled it out to the clergy and priests, and then they began rolling it out to everybody. And then they created the Contemplative Outreach organization in 1984, which has a website. It's called contemplativeoutreach.org. And that's really the main centering prayer organization, with a ton of resources on centering prayer, and different groups practiced, whether it's in a physical place or via Zoom now as well, in various states in the US, as well as internationally in various countries. So you can go to their site and you can find a group practicing anywhere in the US and outside of the US. So, and then what centering prayer is, it's considered two things. It's considered wordless meditation and a relationship with God. And the purpose of it is to sit and open to the presence and actions of God within. And how you do it is to start your prayer. You sit, close your eyes, and then introduce a one or two syllable word, God, love, ocean, a color. It doesn't have to be anything special, to begin your time of prayer. And then whenever you engage your thoughts, and what I mean by that is whenever you think about what you did before you sat, or you begin thinking about what am I going to do after my sit, you realize you're now not really sitting with God and sitting with the present moment. You're sitting with your thoughts, your planning and plotting. So you reintroduce that word interiorly to let go of your planning and bring yourself back to the present. And then you let go of that sacred word as well. And you do that when needed during the prayer. So it's not used as a mantra. And there are mantra-based practices where you're repeating something. In centering prayer's case, it's just used when needed. And you do that during your silent sit time, however long you've chosen to sit. And then at the end of the period, you might sit for a minute or two just to readjust yourself to the world, and then get up and begin your day if you're doing your sit first thing in the morning, or resume your day if you're doing a sit, your first sit, or even your second sit later in the day. You reestablish yourself into the present moment and then resume your day. So that's a little bit about how long it's been around and how you do it.
Thank you so much. Could you share with us the difference between transcendental meditation and the silence?
Sure. And I guess to be honest, I've never done transcendental meditation, so I've never read anything up on it. But what I would say the difference between that or anything is both of them are meditation, and they're silent, and they're most likely wordless. But the difference with centering prayer is we believe it's a relationship with God. We believe we're sitting with God. We're opening to the presence and actions of God within, who is, I think of it as a reverse prayer. During this time, I'm getting out of the way and connecting to God deep within me, who doesn't necessarily need to speak to me, audibly, but is praying in me, either inner peace and you notice these things outside of your prayer time. praying within me for peace or calmness or wisdom for tasks or nudges to get out of your comfort zone and try and do new things. So the difference really is it is meditation, but it's also, a relationship and a way of just sitting with God and deepening your relationship with God, and a different way to pray, because most people think of prayer as verbal prayer. And I'm not saying give up those types of prayer. We're just saying try a different way to pray where you're sitting, as my book says, sitting with God, a journey to your true self through centering prayer. Just like, if you have a spouse or a friend or a significant other, sometimes you just like being with that person, and you take walks, but you're not necessarily talking all the time, or you're sitting on a porch or sitting somewhere, but you're not always talking. It's the same thing. You're sitting with someone that's important to you. Sometimes words aren't always needed.
Could you share some of the examples of how you've changed and where you've found motivation, where you found direction through your sitting with God?
Yeah, I guess I would say it's definitely everything I've been doing since then. So my website, initially was just a weekly meditation, but I think because of centering prayer and because of the confidence and excitement for life and the nudges to get out of my comfort zone, my website has evolved over the last 4 years from not just a weekly meditation that goes out every Monday, but to offering one-on-one coaching for people that want to either start a practice, go deeper in their existing practice, or even I have clients that are clergy that say they need help for self-care. They're taking care of everybody else, but they're not doing a good job taking care of themselves. So it's pushed me into coaching. It's pushed me into doing a ton of podcast interviews, such as the one we're doing right now. And then I've been asked to speak in front of church groups, teaching them centering prayer or centering prayer groups, and just giving a talk. I've talked in front of spiritual director groups. So it's pushed me in speaking directions, podcast directions, coaching directions. And then the neat thing is things just start coming your way too. So I had, the book's been out a year, and then I've since then written the forwards for 2 books for 2 other authors, which was just, for me, that was an honor because my initial reaction is, who am I? I should not be being approached to write a forward. But then I thought, well, no, they obviously felt that I have something important to say, and that I should be in the front of the book. So that was an honor. So I've written 2 forwards for 2 books that are out. And then I was also asked to contribute a chapter to a book that will be coming out in February with a group of contemplatives like myself. Each is going to contribute a chapter. But that was a pleasant surprise to get a random email to say, we'd like you to write a chapter on silence. So those types of things just have evolved, I think, because of the practice, because you let go and open to the presence and actions of God, the presence of life. And when you let go and open to life, life comes at you. So my website and the things I've done has evolved quite a bit in the last 4 years.
Yeah, we've shared so many times in Imagine Miracles, if you open yourself up to the guidance and then you take action when the messages come, life unfolds for you exactly the way that it needs to, and you need it to in that moment to live more fully who you are. So I think you shared a perfect example of that for you unfolding, and it just keeps moving, and you're following its guidance, you're following its direction. So that's pretty awesome. In your one-on-one coaching, can you share with us, first of all, some of the techniques that you use in your coaching, but then also some examples of what's happened for the people that you've coached?
Sure. And maybe the best way to describe it is, I tend, as I look back at the type of coaching clients I have, they fall into 3 categories. So I think that'll best answer your question. So I'm either being approached by people that are brand new to centering prayer. They think if they try it on their own, it won't be sustainable, and they don't trust themselves to begin it and make it sustainable and long-term. So I have people that come to me that are new, want to know how to do it, when to do it, and be held more accountable for beginning a practice and making it long-term and sustainable. And then the second group of people are they're practicing, but perhaps they're just practicing once a day and they want to add a second sit, and they're struggling with adding a second sit and disciplining themselves. And they want to go deeper, meaning they want to know who is their true self. Are they really acting out of that person, and how can they best act out of that person, and who is that person? So I'll help them go deeper, add a second sit, and talk more about, who is the person they're meant to be and what's holding them back. What are the obstacles that are holding them back? And then the third type are ministers, pastors, priests that say they're tired, they're not doing a good job with self-care, and they're spending all their time taking care of people, but they know how important it is for self-care, and they think a practice like centering prayer will help them and benefit them, and they want help getting started, and they want help being held accountable to make sure they take better self-care of themselves. So those are the three groups. And then, so I don't necessarily have a program for each. It's each person has their own needs. So they come to me, and I ask a lot of questions, and they talk a lot, and we together move forward on the best path to best help them. So what I do for one person, even in, I'll call it the one track, isn't necessarily the same as the second person, because everybody's individual and unique. But at least I've noticed they fall into those three groups of clients.
How have some of those lives changed?
I would say, well, the ones in the first life, they feel wonderful, that they feel like they're, the fact that they've disciplined themselves to start a practice and continue a practice. They feel good about themselves. They feel better. They feel grounded. They feel more centered. They feel more refreshed and ready to, begin the day and tackle its opportunities. The clergy, those people, they feel much better because they feel like they're refreshing and restarting themselves, and they feel that they're better able to take care of their flock, so to speak. When they take better care of themselves, they're taking better care of their flock. Because I had one coaching client, and I asked for his permission, and I said, I'm going to text you. So outside of our sessions, just to remind you to do your sits. And we had other things we worked on, and I would just text him to jog his memory, and just to keep him doing his practice, and then actually encourage him to do a second sit, because he probably needed to take a second sit during the day as well. So I think that group or those people tended to feel more energized and feel better taking care of themselves, and then that they were taking better care of others. And then the other group, which is just looking to go deeper in their practice or add a second sit, they did a lot of exploration of who are they and what are things they should be doing. So they added different things. So everyone gets up and has their everyday work that they need to do with their families and their jobs, but they began adding other things to their lives that weren't there before, that now have kind of emerged because of our discussions that they started working on. So they felt, really good about themselves, that they were letting their true selves emerge, and they were taking action on them, versus had we not had these discussions, that true self may not have emerged.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Let me ask you this. We call at Imagine Miracles our why, or our mission, our divine intent, because we believe that we brought that intent into the world with us, and that we've been destined and called to start living that more and more. What would you say that your divine intent is? What difference are you meant to make in the world?
I mean, for me, it's really is sharing centering prayer. So it's a matter of just me sharing how it has healed and transformed me, and just challenging people to check it out and see if it's a practice that would work for them, just as it has worked for me. But I have had coaching clients where it's not the right practice for them. So I'll find one that is. So I have some people that more of a mantra-based practice was better, or more of movement and walking was better. But I would say my mission really is to share centering prayer, show how it has healed and transformed me, introduce it to people and see if it's a practice that will work for them. But if it isn't, after a month or so, they realize it isn't, then to help them find the best contemplative practice that will help them, because there's many out there. So I just want to make sure people can connect with their true self and feel better through a contemplative practice.
Let me ask you this, Rich. It seems that we tend to not notice this. So I'd like for you to share your life up to the time where you started, first of all, using the practice yourself, and then realized that you were meant to take it out into the world. There's a lot that happened in your life before then. How did some of those things, some of those experiences, some of the gifts and talents that you developed there, how are they coming in to help you on this journey?
So things I developed prior to centering prayer, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Good question. I guess I would say, I guess I always enjoyed administrating things and running projects or running mini projects. And I always enjoyed speaking in front of people. So I was able to take at least my kind of project management skills as well as running meeting skills further with me in what I continue to do, because with my existing work, I'm running a Zoom meeting and I'm running a group, or I'm running a one-on-one session. So I guess I continued to take those types of skill sets with me. And even in my everyday work, I handle, without, I'm not allowed to say who I work for, but I handle corporate, I'm in the financial services field, and I have about 7 large corporate accounts that I handle, and I work one-on-one with them. So that skill set of just interacting with people one-on-one, listening to them and making sure that they're getting what they need, transfers easily over into my work in coaching and my work in speaking and guest speaking in my centering prayer space as well. So the skills are transferable, which is a neat thing. I would just say after centering prayer, I think I'm just a much more confident and excited person that these skill sets are I guess turbocharged, perhaps you could say, and being used even better and in better and stronger and more confident ways.
You know, we're getting close to the end of our time, but there's another question that came up as you were sharing there. You've got one life, but there's kind of 2 lives in that one life: your financial services world, and then the silence that you're sharing. Have those 2 intertwined, or have you found that you have to keep them somewhat separate?
Well, they definitely intertwine in that, I get up and during the workday, I do my first sit, and then I begin my workday, and then no matter how busy my workday is, I stop and take my second sit, and find that when I look back at the end of the day, 3 hours later after my second sit, I'm really pleased I took the time for the second sit, because the second half of the day has been super productive versus if I hadn't done it. And that's what I like to tell people is they'll say, I don't have time for a second sit. And I tell people, do it anyhow. I think you'll pleasantly find it has a way of giving you back time, because you're more calm and honed in and focused and can let go of things you don't need to do and hone in and focus on the things you need to do the second half of the day. So I guess they definitely have intertwined, because it helps me during the workday. And then whether this answers your question or not, I have peers at work that have noticed I have a book. So they've reached out to me to ask me about the book, or they've reached out to me to say they're reading the book and really enjoying it. And we're pleasantly surprised to learn that about me, that they didn't know I was an author, that I had written a book, and they find that pretty exciting. So it's intertwined in that way too, by the different people that have reached out and said, congratulations, or that's exciting, or I just bought your book and I'm excited to read it. And I'm not sharing it and promoting it at work, but people are noticing it and seeing it. They're just seeing it.
Awesome. And I think you would probably agree that you really don't have time not to do the second sit, because in that, taking that time, the centering, like you said, makes the rest of the day so productive when you bring yourself back inside instead of out in all the distractions of the outside. Could you share a parting piece of guidance with us, Rich? Something that the imagination just needs to hear right now?
I would say most people are so focused on doing, and that it's vital to take a daily dose of silence. So I would highly encourage people to do it first thing in the morning. Take a dose of silence, whether it's centering prayer or some other silent practice, but pause, get up and pause for 5 minutes before you begin your day, and try it for a month and see what happens and see what it does. And then if you're noticing that it's really wonderful, increase the time and add multiple doses of silence throughout the day. So I would just say, encourage people to try silence. It's probably not a practice that people commonly think of trying, but it can be super beneficial. You're better at your doing because of your silence. I mean, you really are. You're better at your doing when you take the time for silence and being.
That's something that is huge right there. So thank you for that share. How can people get in touch with you, learn more about you, possibly get sitting with God?
Sure. The best place to find me is my website, silenceteaches.com. If you subscribe, you'll get my it's a short free ebook on centering prayer, just to learn about it. And then if you want to further explore it, you can check out my book, which is also on my website. So the best place is silenceteaches.com. And then if you like to go on social media, my social media contact information is right on my website, and you can just push the Facebook or Instagram or Twitter links if you want to follow me on social media.
I appreciate that so much. And all that information will also be available on Rich's show page. Just go to themiracleu.com, look for Rich's episode, and that information will be available to you. Rich Lewis, thank you so much for sharing what you're up to, how you're making a difference in the world. I know that what you're sharing right now is so important to each and every one of us. And it takes people following their callings, really doing what they're meant to do in this world to make that difference. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for being here.
No, thanks for having me on. Again, I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun and a great conversation.
On behalf of Mary, my wife and business partner, the entire team at Imagine Miracles, we want to wish each and every one of you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleu.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 Mind Awakening Steps Toward Your Unique Purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleu.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.